guys. Yeah, Ashley. Bit of late night studio work. Got a new remix I need to get done this weekend. So I put it live. I've already kind of made a start a bit earlier today, but I thought I'd put it live after I kind of got a loop going almost, because that first little bit is quite annoying if you're looking on stream. Everybody will know it. Everybody knows it takes a while to get going sometimes, and just auditioning clap after clap is not fun if you're on the stream, especially when you don't know what's going on in their head. So yeah, this is a remix of James Benedict All Around, which is out on King Street. I believe it's out on King Street at the moment. It was just out on promo, and I am now doing a remix for King Street for it. This is the original. Oh, that's not going to help you. That's not coming through the actual speakers. Hopefully you should be able to hear this now. Yeah, so this is the original. So I love this one when it came through, and I've been playing it bits and sets, but I wanted to kind of do my own edit of it, so I'm doing my own remix for King Street of it. And I love the old school feel of it, but I kind of want to put my own kind of stamp on it as well, so it's got some real old school flavour in there. The original's kind of quite straight. I love the old school feel of it, but it's quite straight. So I kind of want it to be a bit more swingy, a bit my kind of sound really. So yeah, I got all the stems for it, which, you know, quite a lot of stems in there. Basically everything from the whole track, I think. And I went through and I've picked out a few bits that I think I'm going to use, or I might use in part. The stabs I probably will do something with, I think. Got some strings in there. Oh, I've already chopped up the vocal a bit, which I'm going to use a little bit later. Got some nice stabs in there as well. Yeah, just little stabs. And then we got the pads as well. The pads are awesome, actually. Let me find the original parts, so you can kind of see what I've done with it so far. Love these pads. So warm, so kind of old school. I'm not using that one. That one didn't make the cut. So I kind of like those pads, but I've kind of done my own little thing with them. So I've kind of chopped them up a little bit and done my kind of... It's an effect I'm using quite a lot at the moment, and that's kind of the pitch shifting kind of thing, the transposition. So at the end of the bar, it kind of does like a turntable kind of slope and kind of goes down in pitch. So I've kind of cut it up a bit. So it's kind of like a turntable going, being cut off and then started back up again. I kind of wanted that kind of feel, and it's also kind of choppy as well. You'll notice it's a bit grittier as well. Everything's going through the electron heat. So I've got the electron heat just going over here, which has just got it's got a real bit of, just a little bit of saturation in there, just to kind of give it that kind of raw, that kind of dirt. Yeah, just a really kind of small amount of saturation on the master channel. So yeah, just to kind of give it that old school kind of feel. And that's kind of that's everything's been run through there, so it's kind of got that real kind of gritty sound. Actually, let me play it without it. I love it. So the original's quite warm anyway, but the analog heat just kind of brings it out a bit more. We've got a few people tuned in. What's the track called? The track's called All Around, James Benedict. And yeah, this is going to be my remix of it when I finally get it finished. Yeah, so I'm just kind of literally, I've only just started. I've kind of got the loop going. So this is not meant to be a tutorial, by the way. I'm just kind of, I thought I'd just talk you through a bit of it, because I know it's a bit of a pain when you look at like videos on Facebook and stuff, and people are just whirring away and you're not quite sure what they're doing, and you can pick up some stuff, but I kind of wanted to make it a bit more interactive. So if you've got any questions, let me know. Sorry, I'm trying to keep track as well. It's really hard to do on the iPad. Shaperbox. I don't think I've heard of Shaperbox actually. There's so many different plugins around at the moment. One of my favourites is Decimort. I love that for the bit crusher, because you don't get a bit crusher in Ableton. There's a few different bits. There's a saturator, which is quite nice, and the erosion plugin, which is okay. It's not bad. I've never really kind of found a good use for it. I have to use it in very, very small amounts. But Decimort, it's not a free plugin. I think it's quite cheap though. It's a really good little plugin, this one, and just adds that kind of grittiness. I just did it to the ride just a minute ago, so this is it without. And then with. So it's really just adding a little bit of. It's almost just downsampling it, so it sounds crapper, which works. Take those stabs off for now. I'm probably going to replay those stabs actually. They're not fitting in quite as I want them to. In the original track, I think they've been filtered in some way, but they don't sound. They're so clean in this, so I might have to replay them. I think I want them in a different instrument or a different stab. It's not quite fitting with what I want. So that's kind of my loop at the moment. It's mostly there, I think. Yeah, I think I've got most of the stuff in there. I think I wanted to fill it out a little bit, get some 16ths going in or something. It's just not quite moving as much as I want it to. It's quite groovy at the moment, but I think I need some more tops in there and stuff. Most of the samples that I'm using, because I know I'm going to get this question, most of these samples are all from loops mostly. So I use a lot of loops, and some people say, oh, you shouldn't use loops, you should do it all from scratch. And yeah, that's fine, you can do it that way, but I've always done loops, and I don't use loops in their entirety. Every now and again I'll use a loop. I've got a ride there that I've found in a loop pack, and it is literally just a ride symbol. I could have done it myself, but I found it and it's just working easier. But you'll notice there's a whole load of bits and things that I've cut out of various different loops and stuff. They're not one shots. I don't think so anyway. I think the clap might have been one shot. It's just a case of whatever works, and that worked today. So I now want to find some more, I think 16ths or some kind of hats, I think. And I'm a big fan of Splice. Splice is brilliant. I've always been an advocate for sample libraries, and I've always loved Sample Magic. Sample Magic are a brilliant sample library. And I'm so glad that they've become part of Splice now. They got their back catalogue actually on there, or the whole back catalogue's on there. And I've been downloading some more off there recently. There's a few good packs on there at the moment, so yeah, see what things I like people say like they use one shots and stuff to build up the beats and stuff, but for me I like playing loops along with my track. That's what Ableton's great at, is to be able to audition loops in real time, and I might just hear something out of that loop that works, which is how I get. You can just, if you had a whole load of drum hits, then maybe you could do the same thing, but I always find auditioning loops I find that missing part that I'm looking for. Kind of works. It's just kind of filling out the loop a bit. It's just simple hats, but it kind of fills out the loop a bit. See how that sounds in with it all. Okay, kind of fits in just nicely low there. It's just about filling up that space for me. Just layering hats. Same way a lot of people layer claps. I kind of layer a lot of hats within my tracks. Thanks to Adam for tuning in. Simon, thanks for those. I'm going to go through all the comments later, and I'll definitely check out those plugins that you're suggesting, Simon. I always kind of like looking at new plugins. I'm always trying new ones out, and I've always got a whole load of new ones installed. Hey Gary, how you doing? Loads of people tuning in, tuning out. That's fine. I'm going to leave this video up on afterwards, so you can always check it out later. Just skip through it until you find a good bit that you want to listen to. This is the nitty gritty of making tracks, because you'll see somebody, post like a 30-second clip or a minute clip on Instagram, and that's all good. That's all done. This is the nitty gritty of it. This is the nitty gritty of just bashing your head against the wall until you get that right sound. So I've actually got a really cool vocal bit that I'm going to use a bit later, which I've really chopped up from the original. It's got like a real down south kind of sound to it. Thought I'd chop it up a bit, and as soon as it's the name of the track all around, I thought, it's good to use it. Pretty much most of the main part. I try and get a loop done so I kind of know what I'm kind of working with, all the parts that I'm going to use, and then try and get the arrangement down as quickly as possible, really, because I want to, if you get stuck in this loop, you can end up just hearing the same crap for hours and hours and hours, and it just makes you not want to work on the rest of the track. So I kind of always want to move forward with the track as quickly as possible, so that you keep your inspiration and everything going. I'm just going to consolidate all these hats and stuff. I hate just dragging around little bits. It's OCD. I don't want to drag around all these little bits, because I know there's going to be loads of little one-shots all over the place, and it's just going to make it harder in the long run. So I'm just turning all of these little clips into just consolidating them. I think actually I need to go through and EQ them all. I kind of get this stuff in so quickly. I really do just kind of get those ideas going, and so yeah, I kind of just get things rolling really quickly and then come back and tidy it all up a bit later. In fact, I might do that before I start arranging, so at least I know that it's all sounding good. And this is one of those things, is like, and I've said it in plenty of my tutorial videos, and that's, chop as much of the bottom end off as you can get away with, because obviously it always helps with the mix. But the more I produce, the more I kind of learn that you can't make these rules. Like, it's not always the case. Sometimes leaving that little bit extra in the bottom end kind of works. I've always strived for that kind of perfect mix, and especially with house music at the moment, that perfect mix makes it sound too perfect. So you kind of want things to be a bit rougher, which is why, I've kind of, some things I just leave as is. So if they're not quite perfect, that kind of adds some character to the mix, which is kind of what I'm learning. I'm still learning to this day, just different ways of producing. Different people do things in different ways, and we all kind of work in our own little closed off environment. I've got my own little studio here that I'm working in on my own, so I'm not learning from anybody else. But you kind of you spend like a few hours talking to like a fellow producer and stuff. You're like, oh, so you do it that way, okay. And it just opens your mind up to other ways of working. That's the thing. You just kind of learn these things. You learn as you go. Every day is a learning experience with producing. some of that bottom end of the hat. I don't think you can hear it, but I think my neighbours are letting off fireworks. I'm definitely sure it's past firework night. I'll leave a bit of that bottom end on that clap just to give it some weight. Got a jacking snare as well. There's not EQ'd it. Again, I don't want to take too much of this bottom end off because yes, it would help with the bottom end mix, but also it's not giving any thump. Then if you're going to get it through really tinny, but you want a kind of little bit of thump in there as well because that's what kind of gets that jacking kind of nature to it. Fill a hat. Yeah, this is fine. That'll do. And the ride, there's nothing in the bottom end there anyway. Right. So another question. So yeah, I've literally this is how I produce, and I think quite a lot of other producers do. We tend to do work on a 9-bar loop. It's whatever works for you. Some people work in different ways. I've always worked on building up a 9-bar loop, and my hard drive is full of 9-bar loops. And it's just a way that I've always done things. And what I'll do is because you can activate and deactivate a channel, you can kind of see how you could bring things in and out. And what I generally do is just I'll take this, and this is kind of all my elements all together, and that's kind of roughly where the peak of the track will be. I might come up with some other bits later that kind of, bring it on from there, but that's generally what I do. I think that's what most others do, actually. For me, it's just about moving past that 9-bar loop as quickly as possible. So I'll go straight into an arrangement now, really. What's it in? So yeah, just a bit of housekeeping there. I'll try and keep things moving because you guys are going to get bored if you just hear me chatting all the time. I've not actually thought of how this is even going to start this track. I think I might just start with the vocal and that pad sound maybe actually. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's how I'm going to start it. See, this is where I'm kind of thinking, okay, I've got this loop. What am I going to do with it? And that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Yeah, so let's just let's get the drums and we'll worry about that in a minute. I'm just going to take the ride off for now. Vocals in early actually. So I don't really have a specific template as to what I kind of work with, as to how I build a track up or when I bring things in. I try and vary it as much as possible so that, you know, when you're listening to my tracks, you don't just think, oh, well, that's how that's brought in. I mean, there's a lot of tracks out there at the moment that kind of work in very specific ways, especially a lot of tech house. You kind of know exactly what's going to happen in most tech house tracks these days. So for mine, I try and make it unpredictable, sometimes unpredictable. So, you know, dropping everything out and at the start, or, you know, just some interesting way of bringing things in rather than just being the normal, you know, just the norm way of doing it, the default way of doing it. In my head, when I'm listening to this, I'm thinking of effects and stuff I'm going to put in it later, so it sounds quite stripped back at the moment, but let's bring this in here. Actually, no. So I've already kind of built the bass up. I did that a bit earlier. Bass is a key part for me to make sure that's right. Just sounds odd, so I'm deleting it. I could just leave it there, but I've got this OCD thing where I kind of, if I leave it there, it just looks cluttered, and I'm probably not going to use it. I might kick myself later, but I'm going to leave it out for now. I've got a whole load of other vox in here as well, like other vocal samples in here that I can use. So that's about the start of the track anyway. Sorry, I have been not looking at the comments, and it's really hard to look at them on the iPad. It only shows you so little amount. Thanks for all tuning in, by the way. I was worried that this might be a little boring, but I thought I'd just post it up there because I was kind of in the studio, and I thought, well, why not? Let's do a live stream. Let's just show you inside the studio and kind of what I do when I'm in the studio. Just go quietly mad. So we're kind of, so at the moment I'm sketching it out as a rough arrangement at the moment, trying to get everything out there, so I've kind of got a rough idea of where I'm going with it. And then later on, what I then do is I kind of put the magic touches, the kind of bits that I've been thinking in the back of my head. So like this first breakdown, I've got a whole load of ideas, what effects I'm going to put in there, and I'm going to try some different things out. But at the moment, it's just like kind of sketching out a rough arrangement, so I kind of know when I'm going to drop stuff out and when I'm going to do different things. And I suppose I kind of have a rough idea as to where I think I'm going with this. So that's why I know when I'm taking things out and moving things around. It's exactly the same thing as I'll do if I was DJing, just kind of bringing things in and out. So I want to do something with those keys as well, those stabs. It doesn't quite go with the track, but what I'm going to do is I think what I might do is just try and use the audio to MIDI that's in Ableton. Sorry, it's getting later and I'm kind of struggling to think and talk at the same time. It's usually quite an occurrence for me. So I'm going to drop on. I will drop on just massive, I think. Just a rough massive in there. I'm not actually going to use this for any sounds, I don't think. It's just so I've got something, I'm going to get some sound out of it. So I'm going to drag and drop this onto it. And they are actually chords, but I don't know if melody or harmony work. Let's try harmony first, see if this works. So harmony kind of picks up your chords. Melody just picks out general notes. So if you've got like a single note kind of melody, then it usually works better for that. It does give you a whole mess of crap that comes back though. Look at that. I don't think that's going to be useful. Let's have a listen. I'm pretty sure that's Mario. Yes, that's like the cloud level or something, isn't it? No, I'm not going to use that. Right, let's see if we can do the melody option. This is just the lazy way of doing it. I mean, if all else fails, I'm going to go through and just try and pick out every note myself, but okay, that one sounds like the cat has fallen asleep on the keyboard. So that is not going to work. So I think I'm going to have to get the keyboard out and see if I can play around with this. See if I can guess these notes. So I have the push here, which actually has the scale already in it. So I'm going to go through very painstakingly and just try and do all these notes. I should note that I am definitely not classically trained, which is why I do this the painstakingly long and manual way. let's get this loop. So let's loop this up so we got something to work with. And this is exactly if you don't get the MIDI, which you never do for a remix. I usually give MIDI of any of my tracks. Put it up a octave. That's going down, isn't it? There you go. I think that's roughly about it. It's quite, as I say, it's something you kind of pick up. It's not something you can really teach. You just kind of got to go through it, and it's painstakingly just trying to figure out which note's which, and you just got to kind of go through until you kind of feel that it sounds best. So that's what I've done. But now I've got it in there. I'm not actually going to use massive, I don't think. I'm going to see if I can find some other chords that I can use for it. Probably sample chords, actually. And again, I've downloaded another pack the other day from Splice, which is really good. The vintage house chords from Sample Magic. That might work. That's quite old school. So I'm going to drop this into the track. I don't know, wrong one. Now I'm going to convert this to a sampler and then set my root key as G. This might work, this might not. Don't know whether this is going to work over the track. That doesn't sound right at all. trying to take a bit. I'm taking a bit of kind of creative license to kind of change it a bit. Ooh, I don't know if that would that work. No, that doesn't work. Okay, I might come back to that one later because I'm not quite sure that works. So I'm just going to turn these two off and put them at the top. Try and forget they're not there. Thanks to everybody who's tuning in. I think there's a few there, isn't there? Hi, Billy. Oh, I'm glad you're not bored, Gary. This is the thing. It's this is like the ugly truth when it comes to producing. It's not all just done magically. You don't just suddenly churn out a track in seconds and stuff. Usually when you kind of see those kind of videos, that's all pre-prepared. So this is kind of the it works and it doesn't work kind of stage of producing. You know, you kind of just play around with something and you could end up wasting a couple of hours or a live stream coming up with a crap idea. And this one's coming along well. It's just that I think I just might need to work on this a bit more. How are we up for time? 45 minutes. Got 9 people tuned in. Thank you for tuning in. Just turn the side chaining off for that last little bit, just so it has room to breathe, and I'll copy that one across actually, so it does the same over here. For the moment, I'm going to copy over what we got over there. Actually, I'll take out the pads so it goes a bit dubbier maybe. Make that pitch down, go a bit longer, I think. Make it go down like that. That yeah anymore as well. I'm going to take that out. Just going to delete it. Thing is, I have the samples already in the stems, so if I really want it a bit later, then I'll put it back in again, but at the moment I'm just going to delete it because I'm just not feeling it. I think I'm suffering for a fact where I'm not quite sure where this is going. It might be just because I'm working on this late night and I can't quite figure out what to do next with it. So in cases like this, what I usually do is just start maybe working on what I've got there so far, and maybe something might come out of that. So I think the first thing I'll do is I like putting a bit of vinyl noise in the background. I know it's a lot of people do it. It's, you know, it's kind of, it's breathing a bit of analog into our very digital world. And there's plenty of really good places where you can get vinyl from. I'm sure I've mentioned it about a million times in my tutorials on Sonic Academy and various YouTube things. I've got a few clips that I use all the time. Just gentle vinyls, static basically. Can you hear that? Hoping you guys can hear it. Yeah, it's just really kind of gentle crackling in the background. Just going to take out some of the bottom end as well, because that's going to ruin it a bit. And obviously put it really low down in the mix. Key for putting in kind of vinyl sounds is to find the kind of lowest part of your track where you got the least amount of stuff in there, and then make sure it kind of sits in that best. So in my head, there's going to be a whole load of, probably a bit of a snare roll, some, I hate to say a riser or something like that, something in there that kind of builds it up a bit more. Definitely needs some kind of atmosphere in there, so it's probably going to be not crowd noise, but something like that, just to kind of give it that kind of old school warehouse kind of feel. It's a forest sound, but it kind of sounds like vinyl. Maybe the forest might work, but actually I kind of like that almost as like a vinyl sound in the background, so I might just have that looped up and going the whole time. See, the thing is, there might be something in that sample, might be a peak or something in that sample that causes issue down the road, but at the moment that sounds okay. I think I'm going to end it there because I might just smack my head into a wall and nobody really wants to watch that on Facebook Live. So I might end that for today and put it on again later, I think. But I'm sure you'll see this remix finished soon and out on King Street. I've also got an EP coming out on it, King Street, very soon in the new year, actually in January. Deep Down Inside and Jack and Jazz. those two tracks I've been playing in my sets quite a bit. So those are going to be out on King Street in the new year. Got a few remixes coming out in December as well. One on Phoenix Music. I've got an EP coming out on Brobot as well in December. So a lot of good stuff. But yeah, so that's it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this at a later date, then thank you for tuning in. I'm going to go through all the comments now, and I'll reply to any in there. And if you've got any other comments on it, then just leave them and I'll answer them. So I'll see you later.